Okay, so how do we protect ourselves from evil, like demons? It's a very strange thing to say. Okay, so what? First of all, do demons exist and all that? Well, it depends on how you perceive them. You got to understand that evil affects human beings through certain ways, but one of the biggest ways they do it is through perception and mental illness. You know, mental illness and perception. As a matter of fact, the way a soldier uses a sword or a gun, demons and those type of malicious entities use psychology and mental illness as a sword against you. Okay, so how does this work? Okay, well, I'm gonna try to do this really quick because my phone only does these 5 minute blocks for some reason. So I'm gonna try to do this in 5 minutes. Okay, so I want you to understand like predators work a certain way, and evolution and predatory behavior is the same way it works in this world as it works in another world. Okay, so like when you look at lions and wolves and so forth, what they do is they target the young, the old, and the vulnerable. So when they go hunting in a pack and so forth, what they do, whether they hunt in a pack or alone, is they knock off the stragglers, the young and the sick and the weak and the old. And demons are the same way. So they're going to attack you in life when you're sick, on when you're very young and when you're very old. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest mistakes with people is when they don't take care of their parents, is when they leave them in isolation. You don't do that. That's one of the worst things you can do, because isolation, that's where the netherworld and our world mix, and that means that they mix through the way they perceive the world. And when you do that, they become isolated and weak. And just like you see in an African savannah, when stragglers are left behind, the old and the weak, the wolves and the lions come in, they attack the prey. In this case, we would be the prey. However, you got to understand something, okay? Number one is that there is a God. There's a God of reality. Whatever name you use for God, there is a God of reality. And what God does is empower us with certain things. Common sense is one of the things we have, and we know how to use our caring and empathy and strength and bravery and so forth to go against these evils. Okay, so in a lot of ways, even with God not intervening, you may be able to take on a 7,000-year-old demon, so to speak, just by yourself if you use common sense, because God endows us with these things. Most of the time, whatever, we're always helped with God, and you got to keep that in mind. So that sounds pretty crazy religious, but I'm talking about it in terms of the real world. Now, that sounds kind of odd. So what does this mean? Well, demons are from another dimension. They're not from our dimension. So you might think of example like the deep sea creatures. Like why do deep sea creatures look so weird? Deep sea creatures look so weird because they evolved in the deep sea. Okay, so just like these animals evolved in their environment, demons also evolved in a certain environment, which is another dimension. This is not the dimension we live in, but that doesn't mean these dimensions don't collide and rub against each other. And so, can you see a demon? Probably, yeah. You probably could see a demon. Do they look like, ooh, they got big horns and would look like monsters and so forth? No, but can they? Yeah, they can. They can. You can perceive them as that way, but they probably look. They don't look that way. So basically, they look the way that whatever dimension they evolved in is gonna, by the properties of that dimension, they look that way. In other words, in our world, we might see them as a particularly darker shade of shadow, or they might look like a hazy shade of light, or they might look like a shimmering glimpses of color and so forth in our world. That's how they would probably look. So kind of like if you ever try to envision a germ or a bacteria before microscopes were invented, you'd have a hard time doing that. But once microscopes were invented, you could see how they look. So in other words, different things and entities look and appear in the real world as they do how they were evolved in their environment. Okay, so germs look very freaking weird because you can't see them with the normal eye. When you do, you see how strange they look. Demons in our world would look just as weird. They won't look like cartoon devils and so forth. Although they could probably change your perception if they want to make you see them as that. So demons are from a different dimension, and that's they're different. They're different entities. So what are they for real? Well, a demon is they're demons because if they're trying to hurt you, and they're trying to hurt you and many different ways. Most of the time, they hurt you psychologically. That's their forte. So basically, because I got to end this blog quick, I can only make 5 minute blogs on here. Remember, watch your children and watch your elderly. Take care of them, because remember, demons attack the young and the elderly and the sick. So that's those times in our lives where we have to be especially vigilant to keep these entities away. However they may appear or however they attack us, most of the time they attack us through depression. They attack us through psychological venues. Remember that. Without those psychological versions of attack, they're helpless. This is how they attack us in the real world. Think about it.